This is for Cameron. Cam.
What is up, Mountaineer fans? My name is Mountaineer Paul. This afternoon, we're going to be talking about a really important topic. We're going to be talking about minority coaches. I feel very strongly that there are some really good minority coaches out there that need to be hired, specifically at West Virginia University. I've got a list of 5 we're going to talk about today. And should they be hired, and who are some of the best ones? I have a list of 5 I'm going to give you. And specifically, if the West Virginia Mountaineers are going to need to hire a new coach in the middle of this year, or whether that be in the off season, we're going to talk about who the 5 I think fit the best and maybe who deserve a look. I just happen to think that these 5 touch all the bases as far as people that anybody would want. So let's get to it. Number 1, Byron Leftwich, 42 years old, second-ranked offense in 2021, 92 explosives, was your number 1 in the NFL. Talk about a candidate. Byron Leftwich is a really interesting candidate. He's a guy that, when you look at it on the surface, was a really good player in college, played for the Jaguars, was drafted in the first round, but you really didn't hear a whole lot out of him during his playing career. All of a sudden, he gets hired to coach in Arizona. He's promoted to the interim level there. You don't really know if he's going to work out. Then all of a sudden, Bruce Arians decides to come out of retirement. He goes to Tampa, and the first guy he asks to come aboard, Byron Leftwich. He's a really young guy. Obviously, that guy on the right there is probably pretty good to work with. The greatest of all time, Tom Brady. But that doesn't mean the man can't coach. He was promoted to an interim offensive coordinator spot while in Arizona. So I think it's worth mentioning that he would be a candidate, whether that be college or NFL, would be worth looking at. Number 2, primetime Dion Sanders. This is probably the number 1 overall pick for most people right now, I would say. 55 years old, so he's still young, probably in the prime of his life. He's 20-5 as a head coach, really an elite recruiter. Some interesting stuff on Dion is he started at Prime Prep Academy. It must have been a place that he started on his own, then decided to move on. And then he coached his sons, Shiloh and Shadur, while there. Then finally he gets the call to be a head coach at an HBCU in Jackson State, and the rest has been history. He was able to famously flip Travis Hunter, the number 1 player in the class this past year, from his alma mater in Florida State. Really interesting thing that he did there. Not really sure if Florida State holds any ill will towards Dion Sanders for that. But this is certainly somebody that you're going to be hearing a lot about in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if Dion isn't the number 1 coach on several of these institutions' list, but he's probably going to have a short list of blue bloods if he decides to move on anywhere. I mean, look at that smile, dude. If he walks into your living room, you're probably going to say yes. That's just the kind of guy Coach Prime is. How do you say no to that? He's doing commercials with Nick Saban, for goodness sake. And he's got a good coaching on the field record, 20-5. They're undefeated this year. How could they not be with many 4-star and 5-star players they have on that roster at the HBCU level? Really interesting how he waited a little bit later in his life to start coaching. But yeah, primetime Dion Sanders, obviously one of the greatest corners of all time. There's no debate about that. San Francisco, Atlanta, and Dallas. Just a really interesting person overall. As far as West Virginia goes, I don't think this is somebody that West Virginia has a shot at getting. But With that said, if that's somebody that we were able to get, I would certainly welcome him in with open arms. Number 3, David Shaw. Man, you want to talk about somebody who needs a change of scenery. That's the first thing that came to mind whenever I looked at David Shaw, started researching some of the things that he's been able to do. He's been everywhere. The Eagles, the Raiders, the Ravens. He was the offensive coordinator during the Andrew Luck years when Jim Harbaugh was the coach at Stanford. Just an amazing record since he's been there. He's had 5 double-digit winning seasons at Stanford, and 7 of 8 seasons, 8 or more wins. This is a guy with a proven pedigree, an elite offensive mind. Stanford's a very specific institution. They're a place that really recruits very specific types of players. Obviously, one of the toughest academic schools in the country to get into. And so it's not always easy to recruit the best players there. And sometimes after you're somewhere as long as David Shaw has been at Stanford, sometimes you just need a new voice to come in, maybe a breath of fresh air. It's really hard to say what the disconnect has been the last 2 to 3 years there. Starting in 2019, they started just 3 wins, 4 wins, on pace to not have a really great season again this year. Not really sure what's going on with David Shaw, but with a 96-49 record, I can say for sure that he's one of the best. A top 20 coach, certainly a Power 5 coach, and I'd say if he lands somewhere, if you see David Shaw somewhere else outside of Stanford in the future, don't be surprised if they're a contending team. He's just that kind of coach. He's that good of a coach. Proven track record. I would be a big fan of him coming to West Virginia University. Don't know how much recruiting he's done on their end of the United States, but I don't think it would matter. I think he would get acclimated really quickly. Obviously, he's got an elite mind for offense. He knows how to recruit at a really high level. And West Virginia, I think, would be a much easier place to recruit than Stanford. Not as many standards academically. A really interesting pick here. I would love to see David Shaw. I'll be excited to see what he does in the future for himself. Number 4. Yep, you know him, you love him, or maybe you hate him. Jamil Dyer. He's 38 years old, an elite recruiter who the players follow. We saw when we were at West Virginia. Don't forget now, we reaped the benefits of Jamil Dyer ourselves. He leaves Arizona. Who does he bring with him? None other but Tony Fields, Scotty Young, players like that. Especially Tony Fields, who was just an elite middle linebacker that, while he was out of alignment a lot of times, was able to make up for those mistakes, unlike the guys we have this year. He's an elite recruiter, as I said. Proven when he went to Georgia, he was able to take players, unfortunately, from West Virginia. I think this is what most people would remember about Jamil right now, unfortunately. That, and from what I've heard and from people that I really trust say, Jamil was really upset that he didn't get the defensive coordinator job and that Neil Brown chose his friend Jordan Leslie over him. Really interesting. So he was able to move on to Georgia. We lose freshman All-American Tyke Smith. He goes to then Miami. We lose another freshman All-American and Akeem Mesidor. And so a little bit prickly, this situation, but you can't doubt what the man has been able to produce on the field. He was obviously the co-defensive coordinator, that 21 defense that ranked number 4 nationally. And he's got a lot of experience in coaching. He's been in it since 2008 when he started as a graduate assistant at West Virginia. He's moved to places like Cincinnati, Arizona, Minnesota, obviously West Virginia. He won the national championship at Georgia and Miami as well. That West Virginia defense was also 21st in scoring, so just a really, really elite defense. And the way the defense is performing now, he can definitely do with his expertise on that side of the ball, especially in the defensive backfield, where he was a 4-year starter and captain for the Mountaineers during what we would consider probably the golden years of Mountaineer football. And last but not least, number 5. Yep, I'm going to say it. The GOAT. The greatest in West Virginia University history, Patrick White. Recruited as a safety by LSU, he said, no, I'll take my talents to Morgantown. The 36-year-old is only the greatest ever at West Virginia University. He never lost a bowl game. He never lost much at all. When it counted, Pat White answered the bell. Now, does that really speak to his coaching acumen? No. He's really young at 36 years old. He's younger than I am. Obviously, he would be a hometown favorite. West Virginia taking a flyer on him. He's had some coaching experience at Alcorn State in 2018 USF, Alabama State. He went to Campbell. And then the LA Chargers have hired him to do just a myriad of things around there. I thought a lot of you would like to see what Pat's been up to. He is with the Chargers. And just an interesting thing there. Really excited for Pat. No, tell me in the comments. And if you don't mind really quick, guys, before we go any further, please stop and subscribe to the channel. I'm a growing channel. I really love college football, Big 12 football. I'll be covering all of it as we go along on a national scale even sometimes. And then even in college basketball season, we're going to be covering Huggy Bear, the Big 12, and also some Big 10 stuff here coming up too with Michigan State. I've got a friend coming on that's going to help me do some of that. So tell me in the comments, guys, what minority coach would you like to see hired? Did I miss anybody? Is any of these people on this list just absolutely ridiculous? Just keep in mind that some of these guys are people to watch. I'm not necessarily saying they would be right for West Virginia University. This is kind of a mixed bag of coaches, I think, that would be really good coaches somewhere else. And also some coaches that I think could fit at West Virginia University. You think about a Dye. He's a guy I've been a big fan of. And before you tell me that somebody needs to have coordinator or coaching experience before they move on to the head coaching ranks, guys like PJ Fleck, Urban Meyer, Dabo Sweeney, I could go on. There have been several in the history of college football that had no coordinator experience before they became a head coach. It's a little bit of an outdated rule, to be honest with you. These days, you know, like Ed Orgeron of that LSU team that won the national championship, he was a CEO. He hired some of the best staff in the country, and he was able to look over the team from a CEO perspective / approach. And I think that's the new wave of how things are. If you can get a guy in that can recruit his tail off, that can build a culture, you can win in college football these days with the right staff. So I think that's what we hope the Mountaineers are going to go towards. Lots of us are hearing Hugh Freeze rumors. But personally, I really would love to see. West Virginia's never hired a minority coach as a head coach, whether black or otherwise. So tell me in the comments, guys, would you like to see West Virginia hire a minority coach? I really thank you guys. And if you don't mind, just one last reminder to like, support the channel, guys. I'm trying to climb to 1,000 subscribers. Also, like I said, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Support all of our Mountaineer creators, whether that be Kuz's Corner, Golden Blue Dude. We've got several Mountaineer creators out there. Mountaineer Lair with Kenny is another one that comes to mind. If there's anybody else I forgot, I really apologize for that. This channel's grown. I just want you guys to know this channel's grown. In a 24-hour span, I was able to get almost 150 subscribers. So we've done big things on this channel in the last week. We're going to try to do even bigger things. As I grow, my equipment's going to get better. My lighting's going to get better. Everything's going to get better. And those of you guys that are here with me from the beginning, I'll remember when we get to the top where we're going. I really appreciate you guys for stopping by on Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. This show's over, and I'm out.
This is for Cameron. Cam.